doing some ceremonies and sharing my voice in ceremonies, people were reacting to it and saying, dude, you've got to share your voice, you've got to sing more. So took that as a sign, and then I was like, right, I've got to play something else other than the handpan. I've got to give my voice some kind of medium. I picked up the guitar, and so and the songs were coming.
Welcome to our podcast, and my name is Uma, and this is my beautiful partner Shani.
Hello, nice to be here. My name is Shani, and today we are joined by a wonderful guest, Jack Weaver, who is the owner of Shanty Space. He organizes men's retreats, men's festivals, and is a wonderful musician as well. So welcome here.
Thank you, guys. So beautiful to be here and be invited to be in this space.
It's an honor to have you, and we are here to bring a little bit of inspiration to co-creators from co-creators. So if you would like to share a little bit about your journey, what brought you here, how did you end up in Portugal, a little bit of how your dream became your vision, how your vision became your dream and became your reality.
Sure, very happy to do that. There's quite a long journey there, but I'll sort of piece it together somehow. But I suppose, like, initially, it started with not being very well that brought me on the path that I am on today, and that was like dealing with an illness in my sort of mid-20s, and from that space, I had to change a lot of my life. I had to, shift things that I was doing and then focus more on my body, my health, my well-being, and that led me into studying things like Chinese medicine and acupuncture, and also cranial sacral therapy as well, which is a sort of therapy that comes out of osteopathy. So it was a journey sort of that I was learning skills that was deepening my understanding of health and wellness, and coming and bringing myself back to balance in my own body. But then I was learning skills to then also learn to use those and do those therapies with other people as well. So I think the journey really started with that. I call it like the healing power of illness, because illness can really help us. It's like a warning light comes on in our body.
Right. It's true.
And it's like, are we going to listen to that? And can we find the medicine in it? So that was the initial journey, into shifting my old life, which was, not really sure what I really wanted to be doing. I was working in sports marketing in London for some time. And, that was the old world where I really enjoyed sports. I still enjoy sports, but like that kind of like more competitive, kind of like schoolboy kind of lifetime that I was living in is kind of like that was kind of being left behind a bit.
Right.
And then I was moving into what was my heart was calling me to do, which was, finding health and wellness, which I needed to do as well. So, if that gives you a little bit of a background of where I kind of started on that path. And it was in the teachings of Chinese medicine that really inspired me, because it was learning that actually that we need to be in balance and harmony with nature, which is basically the philosophy of Chinese medicine and Taoism. And that was, being in the flow and the sweet spot and kind of like the balance and harmony of life, that really spoke to me. And I'd never heard anyone talk about that in the sort of, 20, 23, 24 years, I think maybe 23 years that I'd been alive. And that's really what drew me in to sort of find that wisdom. Yeah.
Wow. That's a fascinating journey. And I feel like a lot of people, they start on the path because they are looking to heal something. And when you're faced with like an illness, you're faced with like the reality of death. And it's like, okay, my life is short. I'm not here forever. Everyone knows that. But then when you have that illness, it's kind of like accelerated for you. So what you feel like came after that to kind of trigger you to go down the journey and the path that you have to open such a wonderful retreat center and create what you're creating?
Yeah, so I think the retreat center really, the seed was planted when I met Jess, my partner, Jessica, who is the other co-founder of the Shanti Space, my beautiful wife. I should say wife rather than partner now. But basically she, the first time we met each other was in London. I was living there, and she was just passing through because she'd been kind of on a journey, being quite a nomad for four or 5 years, having lived in Australia, and she had been on that kind of like, that spiritual quest, I suppose, and trained in yoga and spent a lot of time in India and Nepal and all around the world really. But she was floating through London in that moment. And we had got connected by an old friend, and and basically I gave her lunch, and the first time we met, we basically said over that lunch how we both had the vision to run a retreat center. So it was like it really like it dropped in that moment that something was planted, and it took some time before we actually sort of got together. It was sort of a year later, after we kind of, she invited me to work at a music festival. We're putting on the healing area of a music festival in Bulgaria called Meadows in the Mountains. I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's like a lot of London crew go out there. But and we facilitated that, and on the way there, that's where on the sort of like the journey there, as we went from lovely places like Prague and camping out in Germany, we kind of started to get together. So that was the moment where the seed was planted, and we then had a bit of time where we were living life, and she'd already created the Shanti Space. That's the thing. So she had already was running retreats around the world, some in Spain, some in places. And she had the website, for example. So that was already like a something there. And then it's like I sort of came in to sort of join the party, if you like. And and we gave it a little bit of a home in London for a while, but, just a small little space. And we just really felt that we wanted to live in a place that would nourish us, and we wanted the people that we worked with to, have that nourishment. And it was for us like one of the core themes that we wanted to curate and create around it was basic connection to nature, because for us that's where in society and in well-being, or kind of where maybe illness and disease is coming, is that disconnection from our natural selves, which is very much held by this connection to nature. So for us that was like, we knew that we weren't going to be in London forever.
Yeah. There's not much natural nature in London.
There isn't. No, it's a concrete jungle.
All right. So you'd say that your common inspiration to set up the place in Portugal was to be close to nature.
Definitely to be close to nature. And we weren't sure it was going to be Portugal. We were open to it being anywhere in the world. So there was, I suppose I should tell you this story. It's like there was this moment where it became clear that we needed to leave London in order to try and find where the Shanti Space was going to be. And this was sort of like supported, I suppose, by some magic mushrooms, actually. And we used to like to get out of London to the countryside sometimes. And, you know, sometimes we would take some magic mushrooms, make a little ceremony out of it. And this one time we just went for a walk in the nature around in the little shepherd's hut that we were staying in. And we came across this beautiful barn owl that was dead, actually, on the ground, but in beautiful form. So it hadn't been there for very long. It was in perfect condition. It was quite a sight to sort of see that, you know, white and chestnut, beautiful owl. And what we did is we kind of like honored it and we blessed it, and we sort of took some of its feathers and brought it into the ceremony. And we were just connecting with what is the meaning of the owl, and the sort of the spirit of it, and what does it represent in the ceremony. So we were kind of like, I suppose, had quite a powerful moment as well in the ceremony. But I'll take you to the next day, and we were back in London, staying at, not staying, but we were at the tube station and looking over kind of the other side of the rail tracks. There was this big poster, okay? And on this big poster was basically this barn owl that was there. And Jess and I were having a conversation at the time saying, should we stay in London? Should we go? I had a very good opportunity working with this master acupuncturist. And so, but I knew deep down I wanted to do the project of the Shanti Space with Jess. So there was sort of strings holding me there. But as I was saying, what should we stay or should we go? And I go, oh, look, there's our owl over there on the other side. On the big billboard was this big poster of this owl, and in capital letters it said, "Get out of London." So it's like we had this like visceral feeling.
Oh yeah, that's a powerful sign.
Standing up. Yeah, exactly. Powerful sign.
Wow.
And you know, I hadn't really had many other proper signs like that before.
Yeah.
You know, so or maybe I wasn't listening, but that one we really felt. And you know, 2 days later, I decided to quit my job. And we were like, if we're going to find this place and we're going to do it, we can't do it from here. So we uprooted ourselves, and then we did a bit of, you know, moving around and just trying to find where the right place was going to be. So we opened ourselves up to that, and called the kind of the Project Owl, trying to find the Shanti Space. Yeah. So and in the end, when we did land in Portugal a couple of years later. It took us a couple of years to really find the right place. We had this moment of seeing the space, and I was just like, this is it. It's got this nature, it's got this beautiful nature around it. It's really held. And it had a lot of possibilities as well with the old buildings that were there, what we could do with it. And we went out to a local pub, ordered a beer actually, and the beer was called Coruja, and I didn't speak any Portuguese, and in Portuguese, Coruja means owl. And there it was, like when it got put down in front of me, the owl was looking at us. So that was a little bit of a magical moment that sort of brought us to the space and to Portugal, following a little bit of the owl medicine and opening ourselves to listening, you know, a little bit.
I feel it's so important to follow these signs in life, you know, when we're connected to our like third eye center, to our intuition, and we ask for these signs, the universe can't help but deliver, you know, and it's like, I don't know where to go. So open your eyes and look for a sign that is there saying, go this way. So it's beautiful to hear like how you could follow this.
Yeah, that one just like slapped me in the face. It was quite hard not to follow that one.
Yeah.
Amazing. And I wonder, so you were mentioning that you work with Chinese medicine, and also you and your partner, Jess, you're both also yogis. So it was coming, the idea to set up the retreat center was already as a space for you to bring healing, or you already knew that you're going to like have a lot of people coming in and
no, we had
be
no
fully
idea.
Booked for 10 years ahead?
Absolutely no idea. It was totally just following the heart, and like we had no idea if it was going to be a success. We hoped it was going to be a success. And we had to take some risks, definitely. But we knew we knew in our hearts it felt right to be doing this. And there was, even though our families thought we were bizarre, like, what are you doing? Just uprooting yourself from, like a good job and, a salary or whatever. And then kind of like, just sort of like going wherever the wind takes you, they couldn't quite understand it. And I think that was, it was like it was a challenging moment to actually sort of deal with some characters in those moments, when you're getting a little bit of friction between family or whatever it might be, where they don't understand. But, they've got to a place now where they really do understand.
Yeah.
Sometimes you've got to move through that.
That's true.
Those resistances that maybe are there a little bit from your familiars or from the outside world.
Yeah, I can relate to that for sure. So I'm wondering, why do you feel like you were so connected to this vision and you believed it so strongly to completely change your life for it?
Yeah, it's a good question. And I feel that, I feel like it was the alchemy of like the dynamic with Jess that really lit it, because I don't think I would have done it without her. I think I would have just been like an acupuncturist. I would have been, maybe I would have, moved into music like I am doing now. I don't know, but I think I would have just gone down that kind of working with therapies, alternative therapies, and going really, really deep into that. Whereas now I'm kind of like, I do a bit of that, but I'm holding a lot of other things, like with the business and also with some men's work, and also being, putting a lot of time into being a musician now. So, but the answer there is like, I feel like that was like, it was when we both came together with the vision that sort of gave the energy and towards bringing it into manifestation, because Jess has a lot of amazing qualities that I definitely don't have. She brings a lot, and she had a lot of, her previous career was in advertising and things like that. So she had a good understanding of like, I hear also for you, Uma, but like branding and making things look beautiful, websites, things like this. So that's, and also like her having already created the Shanti space is also like worth something, because it's been a website for a while and things like that, So there was like a good base from that sense. And then I was just the guy who runs around trying to make sure things happen a bit,
Do you know your human designs?
Yeah, she's a manifesting generator and I'm a generator.
Yes, I knew it. It just sounds exactly like this.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. But, it's also amazing to hear how you're an example of a couple that comes to work together and create together and inspire each other and grow from this. And at the end, you have a success. Because so many times in the circle, I see couples who start on the project and the projects are thriving, but the relationships not so much.
Wow.
And what would you say about that?
Yeah, I would say, it's a real thing, that like, because you're coming together and, okay, the standard way couples tend to be in relationship is one goes and does one thing, the other goes and does another thing, if they're going to go and do their work, Right. And then they come back and they have a bit of time together, but they get their space in that way. I feel like if you're working together, there's a whole different dynamic here going on. And like for us, it brought up a lot, it brings up a lot, because suddenly we had thousands of decisions to make. Especially when the Shanti space started to get going and we were on site trying to work out how we're going to create this into a beautiful retreat center. And neither of us has done it before either. So, we hadn't, I'd never done a building project. I've never worked with builders. And then all the decisions about like what things are going to look like. And, maybe you're not quite agreeing on that. So definitely it brought things to the surface. But in that moment, you have the opportunity to see and work on some of these aspects of self that are maybe have some resistance and that could be beliefs and patterns that could be healed, you know, that have maybe been taken on from generational stuff.
Of course.
So you know, with that is the opportunity, and we went through some tough times. It took us to the edge, like really took us to the edge. But I feel like because we didn't split, we didn't break, it didn't completely, you know, kind of like there was a thread that was still there, and we were able to do the repair work to come back together. I feel like that has brought us to a place where we've been able to go deeper, and you know, through a lot of the what would I say? Yeah, the tensions that were there initially and the reactions that were there initially, because we've done the work now, they're not there so much, you know?
Right, you heal them.
You kind of heal them and you work with them, or you create more space, or you see what your patterns are,
Right.
because the other person's reflecting to you a little bit.
Exactly.
Like, what the hell's going on, you know? Or like, you know, with love, hopefully.
Yeah, the thing is, like, if we, in the moment, if we just turn around from the challenge and say, like, okay, we break this, the same challenge will come in a different time, in a different name, or in a different context. But unless we do the inner work, it's not done. It's not solved.
Totally.
So how if you feel comfortable with sharing, like, what tools, like what kind of practices, or like what kind of thoughts and directions did help you both to like stay in this together and like keep the bond?
Well, we had some tools, which I still feel like we're working on, you know, it's a constant process. So, but, you know, we used to delve into a little bit of like conscious communication, nonviolent communication, like how do we communicate in a way that is going to be kind of getting our needs met, or hearing the need in the other's communication if there's a little bit of like anger there or something. And usually there's something behind that, you know? So it's like, that we delved into that quite a bit. And then also working a little bit with polarity. So that's like making sure that I have my own time with maybe some guys. Jess has some own time with some girls, because if we're working together the whole time, where basically the spark goes, and then you know, when the spark's kind of maybe not there, it's easier to get a bit sort of like frustrated with each other. It's a bit flat line, or this, you know. So we kind of have, you know, and we're still working at it, especially when now we've got the baby involved. A beautiful baby Sky.
Another challenge.
Another challenge. Exactly.
So.
But it's like just trying to create our own spaces. And when you do that, when guys go and hang out with guys and girls go hang out with girls, then we kind of build our polarity up, so the spark can stay there and we can come back into reconnection and and keep the love alive, you know. So like those are some of the little tools that we've used. And focusing on the repair aspect. Yeah.
That's amazing. You guys are inspiration for that. And as you said, you're kind of still working through the journey, and it's an ongoing process. Yeah. So, you touched on the point of having the separation, the space for you with the men and her for the women. And you're now holding a festival for men. It'll be a men's retreat festival.
So I co-founded Alchemy Brothers with my brother Jacob. And there is a beautiful festival that is happening on the 5th to the 8th of September, which is called Manifest. So this is also in collaboration with some other brothers. We've actually expanded the Alchemy Brothers team, because having a baby, I've sort of taken a little bit of a step back. And then we've got some other brothers that have come in who are bringing some amazing things. And so this particular festival is happening up in the Serra da Estrella. And it's going to have some beautiful workshops. We've also incorporated music and live music. So I think we've got Roman coming, a dear brother called Luke as well, Luke Sahar, who's an amazing musician. So, and myself, I'm going to share some things there as well. So we've got like a whole, it's like 3 days to dive deep into what it means to be a man, and to celebrate that, really.
And I feel like these spaces are needed so much in this time right now, when a lot of men feel alone and they don't know like they have brothers around them. And creating this space, it's amazing that you're doing this. So thanks.
Yeah, and it's funny kind of how it came about, because you know, most of the work that I was doing before I started doing the men's work was with my partner, or with Jessica, and we would run retreats together. And but after a couple of years of being at the Shanti space, I realized that most of the people that were coming on the retreat were women, basically. So most of the people that were coming even to the space, you know, were women, and I felt like, where are the men? And like, how can we bring more men into these spaces? And I think generally there is a theme that women tend to be the forerunners. They're kind of like, and certainly in what I can see from like what they bring in terms of a healing aspect, and also just I feel like how they can sometimes support their men to sort of like moving towards a more kind of consciousness. Basically, I feel like women really can bring that. And so I think that's also why maybe that was happening, that more women were coming to events. And and so it was kind of that inspired me to try and get men to sort of, have more offerings for men,
right.
To get them into these spaces, because, I think a lot of how men connect, or certainly like me back in the day, how I would connect, was kind of a bit more laddie, a bit more matey, a bit more like pints down the pub. There wasn't the depth towards conversation. There was sort of, it's more like take the piss.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And I always found it really hard to resonate with that kind of chat, even though I kind of partook in it because there wasn't anything else going on, So it's like trying to create spaces where we can actually like drop the mask a little bit, connect on a deeper level, and maybe talk about some of the struggles we're having, and maybe talk about some of the joys as well. But like, and hear each other, in this kind of more vulnerable space. And I think it's like when people have come on these retreats that we do, they have just said how they've just not been seen like they've been seen by other men in these spaces, and how much that nourishes them. So yeah, I really think it's amazing work, and there's now lots more of it happening around, I see. So I'm really happy to see that.
That's so true, because we've had already so many offerings for women all the time.
So many.
And the man was just left behind. And even myself, I was thinking, okay, I'm going to make a women's circle, I'm going to make a women retreat, I'm going to make this. And I was like, okay, but what about the poor men, Who will hold space for them? And I was like, okay, maybe I will hold space for everyone.
Yeah.
But then I was like, no, we need more men who are connected to hold space for men.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's really
I think that's one thing, but we also need like the men to be open to step into these new spaces for them, and to do something that might be a little bit challenging or outside their comfort zone. Because I think for me especially, like, that was challenging for me at the start. And I remember one of the first ecstatic dances I ever went to was actually at Shanti Space. And when I went there, it was like a cacao ceremony, it was ecstatic dance. And I remember being a little bit triggered by how nice everyone was. It was like, I felt a little bit uncomfortable with people just being nice for the sake of being nice. And it took a while for me to kind of let that guard down and open myself up to just accepting love without any like expectation.
Yeah.
And I think
any expectation or like judgment that maybe like how I'm dancing, is it okay or what? Or, and there's just none of that,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You got that sort of free space that is like, I think we're walking around most of the time in like a fight mode, because if we're coming from that kind of old paradigm where we're sort of like worried what everyone thinks of us, and kind of like, we got that mask up. So it's like, I think it's very profound to be in these spaces where that's sort of cultivated, that sort of acceptance, I suppose.
Unconditional love also.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of like been going on for generations. So it's kind of ingrained in our DNA, and the work that we're doing is sort of rewriting this and creating a new way of being. So it's super powerful.
Super powerful. Yeah.
So what kind of tools and techniques, if you feel like revealing, do you apply in the men retreats?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think the sort of the ethos and what we've really tried to create in one of the first retreats that we started doing, and it's been one of the main ones that we're doing. It's called the initiation, and that is to try and I suppose bring about some kind of aspect of like a rite of passage for the man to sort of move into from one space to the next space, or to upgrade from leave behind whatever there is, and we're moving into the new.
That's amazing.
The new man, and that's kind of like obviously been quite a part of like more indigenous cultures. They've got this kind of rite of passage for the boy to become the man, and I think in our culture now we just don't really have anything like that.
No, it's like when you're 18, you're allowed to drink alcohol. That's your rite of passage. It's like that's it. So that's what the culture
down
is.
the pint.
Yeah, now you're a man.
So yeah, we've kind of like that's sort of one of the major themes that we try to bring in, and we do this by bringing in some challenge, and that challenge is, for us we brought in, I suppose, nature or like heat and cold, so like the ice bath is is like one aspect, and then going from the other pole you've got the Temescal. So it's like bringing these different quite natural remedies that are quite strong into the experience, so that men can be tested to their kind of edge, and then ideally we're kind of come back and then find their center, from that space. And it's like when we get men out into nature and through these kind of like challenging kind of workshops, we also do lots of things like Jacob's a great primal movement facilitator and a movement facilitator. So then it's like it's getting more primal, and it's like testing ourselves through these kind of natural ways and through the temperature to then come back to a space of where we can find our center and communicate our truth, and then we'll have that kind of those circles to sort of like share about the experiences of what's moved through and what it was like to meet challenge in the world. So it's like, and how can we relate that into our actual daily lives,
So would you say that the men's retreat are also aiming to connect the men with their feminine?
Yes, for sure. It's to connect with themselves, like their true self, which is going to have a masculine aspect to it and a feminine aspect to it, So, I suppose we could say like, we're going to get men, connecting more vulnerably to themselves, to share, their heart's truth, and that has a feminine aspect to it, but also it takes a shitload of courage to be able to do that, So there's a lot of strength in being vulnerable. It's actually stronger than just being like stiff upper lip. I'm gonna just like get through this. Sometimes there's that softening, which is a sort of feminine trait. It needs a strong masculine presence to do that. Yeah. So, bit of both, I would say. The masculine and the feminine is like, and we kind of talk to that a little bit. Yeah.
So I'm wondering, what do you feel like the men of today are craving, or what are they lacking in the way that they grow up and in society?
Yeah. I feel that it's, I can speak from my personal experience. It's like authenticity. I feel like that's a key trait. It's like to be yourself. So you don't have to prove to anyone that you're anything else, and you don't have to be anything else for anyone else as well. So it's like just finding that inner strength to speak truth and be authentic. I feel like that's a key aspect that through men's work we're trying to achieve. But I feel like I feel like through our conditioning, we become grown up, or we get to adults, and this is for me anyway. I was at a place where I had no idea what I wanted, who I was, and I think that was probably through having grown up in a space where I didn't feel like it was okay to be me. So I imagine other people are having that experience as well. Yeah,
definitely. Yeah, so I'm interested now. You've become a father, and you're going through that process of changing like your life as well, and it's shifting a lot. So I'm wondering if there's any lessons that have come through this experience of becoming a father.
Yeah, there have been multiple lessons and many lessons. But it's the most beautiful thing that I have done so far in my life, to become a dad. And got this beautiful baby girl, Sky. And it's been like, it's got its challenging aspects, because suddenly, you've worked your life out in a way that you're working as a couple. Maybe you've got your business, maybe you've got your work, whatever. And then suddenly a new little being comes into the mix who has a lot of needs, and is, basically you've got to keep alive, and nourish. And so with that, there's, there is so much more, I suppose, in a way, stress that gets put on the family unit to try and manage that situation that you've had no training for. You don't really know what it's going to be like.
Yeah.
And you've got the whole thing of like birth and everything like that, which is that's one of the biggest, what would I say? Like rites of passage. Rites of passage for the dad to hold the space for that, but also for the mum to like go through that. It's like, it's a really, really like that's a real strong moment. So you've got that, and then you've got kind of post going into the family unit, and then managing that. And that's where I feel like we've been so blessed to having done Shanti space before. Like we've had that moment to work through a lot of our stuff, because in this moment you've not got sleep. You've not got so much sleep, and that's already quite a stress on the system. So then, if you've got your reactions to work with and your baggage, it's going to come up then. And I think that's why it's a really hard moment for families initially, I think that.
Yeah.
But I feel like we were lucky to have kind of worked a lot through our stuff with Shanti. So, so lessons. Lessons from that is just like, it's like you get a chance to relive your childhood, because you're seeing it through their eyes, and you're seeing it through your own eyes, like watching them as well, and how you are with them. So it's like you can give them what you didn't have. And in that moment, with your awareness and a consciousness, you can sort of you can be aware of like healing that dynamic in some kind of way. That's what I've experienced. So it's like, by me giving Sky as much unconditional love and acceptance as I can, and to meet her needs, in a way, I'm kind of healing my own inner child with that. So that's been a really big lesson, and that's one of the most beautiful things I think about becoming a dad.
Well, that mirror reflection for the child.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and with that, I think you're healing that that intergenerational trauma that has been passed down, where maybe babies are to be seen, not heard, whatever it might be, where they're they're put in a separate space because, you know, really, and, you know, and they're taught to cry out or whatever it might be. But it's like, we're doing a different way. We're doing a way where we are, you know, trying to create a safe attachment style for her that she feels safe. Yeah, she feels very, very safe. And we're still in that process, but the thinking is that once she feels completely safe, she is going to be able to, you know, take space or, you know, on her own when she feels like it, or sleep easily without needing any support, you know? So it's like, that's what we're trying to create, a secure attachment. So yeah, it's a whole nother field like we're going into with that. And Jess is very good with it. So yeah.
Oh, that's so beautiful.
Yeah, that's a fascinating thing as well. So you mentioned a couple of times about music, and you create music. You've done song with Sam Garrett, which is incredible. You're always performing at like events. So I'm wondering, has music always been a part of your life, or is this something that's come up recently, or
it's something that has definitely come up to be shared recently. So back in the day, I used to sing a little bit when I was, you know, kind of like up to age 12. I used to kind of like sing in a choir or something like that. And I used to play the saxophone and the bagpipes. But then I kind of stopped because it wasn't cool. So, you know, like my mates were playing sport. So I kind of quit that. And then I started playing sports. So it wasn't until we started getting back to the shanty space. And I heard a handpan, and like I was like, wow, that's amazing sound. I've got to find myself one of those.
I just bought a handpan recently.
Have you?
Yeah,
dude, it's the way. Lessons. That's the way in. Because that got me back into music, and and so I started, you know, playing the handpan, and it was from that I started realizing that. Well, it was kind of doing some ceremonies. Doing some ceremonies and sharing my voice in ceremonies. People were reacting to it and saying, dude, you've got to share your voice, you've got to sing more. So took that as a sign, and then I was like, right, I've got to play something else other than the handpan. I've got to give my voice some kind of medium to sort of, you know, get across. So I was like, right, I've got to learn the guitar now. So so that was like just before COVID. I picked up the guitar, and so and the songs were coming, like, and maybe it was the inspiration from the shanty space, the energy there, that was I felt like a lot of the songs were coming from the land a bit, and so that was like blossoming, and it was, you know, having an amazing supportive brother like Sam who basically, you know, came in, you know, he came to the shanty space to run some things, and that's how I got to know him. And he really felt my Pachamama song that he has also co-created with me. And so that was the first release that came out, I think probably in April last year. So that's been a blessing to have that kind of support, you know, because he's an amazing musician. So like having his support to kind of like initially get that first song out was an inspiration for me. So that's helped me kind of move on and start sharing more as well. And I feel like there's a lot of energy there. There's been a lot of energy brewing. So I'm just following that thread.
Yeah, I really love what I hear from you, that your life has been unfolding really as a series of consequences of a hard callings. And everything that we're discussing here is like, okay, this came because I felt this. It's not like a mind structure of a plan of how things have to be. You know, it's more of a like following the intuition and the heart, and the things keep appearing. And I believe this is a beautiful reminder for everyone to really keep trusting and keep this heart-soul alignment. And then everything comes. Yeah.
And follow your excitement, I think, is quite a good one as well. So what you feel excited about, because there's probably something there if there's a spark where you get that excitement, and that's another good little tip I found to do. And there's a little deeper aspect to share about the music as well. I've found what is happening whilst I'm doing this is it's actually a really healing thing for me to do, because I'm sharing my voice. I'm opening my voice, which is, has been something that has maybe been I found hard to do in from my past. So with this music that I'm sharing, it's like it's a healing journey for me, and I really feel the power of that. Of how it's, in a way, it's like it's a way to alchemize what's stuck inside of me a little bit, and create more of a clear channel. And that's my kind of like intention with the music. It's like to try and share what needs to come through a little bit. And at the moment it seems to have a lot of nature in there, but we'll see what comes.
So what would you tell to the people who already have the seeds in their hands, but they don't really know where to put them, already have the inspiration, already have the concept, but maybe are still in fear of putting it out there, or not sure where exactly to put them or how to put them, or afraid that they don't know what's the color of the plant that's going to grow? Yeah.
Well, I mean, I would say is like, firstly, it's like to listen. So it's like we had to listen to what messages you're getting through your interactions. So, the universe will give you some kind of messaging about which way to go. Maybe it'll be someone turning up and offering something, or maybe it will be something else. And sometimes it can be a dead end, but it's just like taking those moments and those chances to sort of like see which way to go, and go also on feeling rather than thinking. Because I think thinking we can overcomplicate things. We can have maybe a program running that is a sense of lack, that might be going, well, if I do this, then, I'm not going to be secure enough or whatever. And so I think going on what feels right in your heart, so trying to get into that feeling mode. And then also, I mean, maybe it's because of I'm a generator in what's it called in
design system.
Exactly, human design. In human design, yeah.
Graphic design.
Exactly, graphic design. So because of human design, and I know that being a generator, I'm supposed to respond. So that's been quite helpful for me, to know that I shouldn't go and like push. I should wait to receive a message or the way. So I've kind of like taken that into the way that I operate a little bit. But I quite like that because it's quite Taoist. It's like, have you heard of Wu Wei, which is sort of like, it's kind of like going with the flow, but it's doing without doing. So you're not kind of like stressing or straining to make something happen. You're just sort of like setting the intention and then just sitting back and waiting for it to sort of like come.
Okay, but this brings me to a question about trust. Because you mentioned that you are bringing your daughter in the spirit of trust and feeling safety. Is that something that you also received, or you had to work to have this trust to the universe that you plant the seed and yes, it will grow?
Definitely had to work. Yeah, definitely had to work. But I also have my beautiful wife, Jessica, who has that abundant mindset. And that has really helped me because I feel like the mindset that I have been kind of like programmed with or given a little bit through my family is a little bit of lack, and wanting to, kind of like, I think of a squirrel, like keeping the nuts, kind of like making sure I've got safety, for winter.
I love this one.
Yes.
So I've had to learn to bring more flow, you know, and Jess has really supported me with that.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I think abundant mindset is something that is a beautiful tool that can really help us upgrade life.
Yeah.
As opposed to scarcity and fear.
Yeah. I'm really working with it actually at the moment, that. And I'm working with it I feel in my body. Like I've got to a point now where it's like, I'm feeling that maybe all of that resistance that I can feel in my body that is like quite deep.
Right.
Is like, I feel like it's a lack. It's like, maybe it's a lack of like not getting enough love when I was, you know, tiny and small and baby. You know, maybe it was through the generational lines, maybe past life, I don't know. But it's like, I feel like is at the root of a lot of my tension and core wounding. Yeah.
That's fascinating. We've had quite a few facilitators on the podcast already, and a lot of them have spoken about embodiment and actually healing in the body, and ecstatic dance is a practice. And even the way you spoke about healing yourself through singing, it's through the body. And now you feel this lack clearing that you're doing is through the body as well.
Yeah. Yeah, so. It is through, exactly. And I think the body is where we can transform things. It's where we have the opportunity to shift and to move from. And it's also, you know, it's, in my experience, it's like where we hold everything.
Yeah, exactly. You know? So in your men's retreats, for example, when you take someone through the ice bath and the Temescal, you bring them to the body in the most extreme of circumstances.
Yeah, a lot of the practice is embodiment. Yeah, it's like learning to start to feel again. Because I think a lot of us, we're so mental, we've been cut off from here. It's not been okay to feel. You know, when we've been younger, we've been told we can't feel that way. Or we've been told, you know, we you know, the way we've been trained is not getting us in touch with our feelings and our emotions. And there's a lot of shame, you know, maybe projected on us around them. So that's like,
It's very beautiful. I feel like embodiment practices, firstly, they get us in touch with what we feel and why and where. But then the next level to it is really transforming these feelings and these experiences that are encoded in the body into new beliefs, into new thinking patterns.
Yeah.
And I find it very powerful with the breathwork practice, with the breathwork practice, and with the ice bath as well, which is really deeply also connected with letting go. And as you said, also Temescal and any other ceremonies. And I was wondering if on your path there has been any healing modality that has been having this really deeply transformational effect on you.
Yeah. I feel like it's an amalgamation of lots of them, actually. But yeah, for me, you know, I do a lot of Qigong. So that's kind of like my kind of go-to practice. And like that, as well as doing cranial sacral therapy, biodynamic cranial sacral therapy training. That was like a 2-year training that I did that was all about getting in touch with the felt sense of the body, but then kind of like obviously doing it for others. So, and you know, it's actually quite an energetic practice where you actually start to feel the subtle rhythms of the energy body, kind of like having an in-breath and an out-breath, like the ocean, how it comes in and it comes out. So you actually start to feel that moving through the your patient's body when you're kind of giving a treatment. But before you start working on someone else, you do it on yourself. So you start to, when you're getting into these spaces where you're basically coming more into a parasympathetic nervous system, you are expanding your awareness out into the cosmos, and you are coming into a sense of where you feel safe, basically. And it's like when you feel safe, like the body can go into its own natural healing mechanism. And that is, and it knows how to unwind the tension that it has in its own body. when you get out the way.
Exactly.
So it's like that practice of biodynamic cranial sacral therapy, where I'm basically, I'm coming into connection with myself. I'm finding my midline, my central column. And then I'm kind of expanding out towards my skin. So I'm feeling the whole of my body. I'm taking the whole of my body into my awareness. And then when I feel that's good, I'm going to expand out to the room. And then when I've expanded out to the room and I can feel the whole room, then I'm going to expand out further. And you can go on, out into the universe. And like when the body starts going into a healing mechanism, then basically something maybe will come up to start to be worked on. And when you've got that expansive space, then you're kind of out of your own ego a little bit, and it can help to start shifting and moving. That's sort of what has really helped me to start to get on that healing journey. Yeah.
Oh, that's a powerful practice. Tapping into that energy field.
Yeah.
It reminds me a little bit of the sensations that I had when I was doing my yin yoga teacher training.
Yeah, man.
It's
Yin
also
yoga.
putting you in this parasympathetic nervous system, and we've been starting every day with 2 hours yin practice.
Yeah.
For 10 days
Yin yoga
consecutive.
is my favorite.
Yeah, for me, it's also like I've been so surprised. I've been told as a child that I'm a hyperactive,
ADHD,
hyperactive attention deficit disorder, everything. And I was like, okay, am I ever going to do yin yoga? No, of course not. Ashtanga, vinyasa, everything perfect. But yin, just laying down on the floor for 2 hours? No way. And then I did this training because I heard a call, and it was in yoga and traditional Chinese medicine. And this has changed my life as well. This like pure being.
Yeah, it's one of the most powerful practices in yoga as well. I also do that a lot.
Wow.
And I feel what the most powerful thing about the yin yoga is that you're meeting the resistance constantly in a passive way, so you're kind of like working a lot on, equanimity. So it's like we're feeling this sweet spot where there's a bit of resistance in the body, and then trying to soften around that. So it's kind of like this practice that I was doing as well, where we're kind of like where there's a kind of like you can feel the tension, but then you're kind of like expanding and softening, around that. And I think that's it's really powerful to be in that space of working with tension, and like learning not to judge it, learning not to basically go, oh, I don't want to have this thing, or oh, I don't like it, I'm just going to ignore it, or oh, get away. It's like meeting it, feeling it
Every day
gives
somewhere
you
else.
yeah, exactly. But with yin yoga, you're kind of feeling it on the point where it's like just about comfortable, to feel it, so it's not, you're not going to tense up, and it's just slowly working that through all the fascia. I love that practice.
Like
And really powerful.
deep allowing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
That's amazing.
also
Receptivity.
accepting the body being in the body and the mind and the spirit being in a completely different place every time we show up for the practice.
Yeah. I fall more into that camp of actually like enjoying the more passivity of practice, rather than the kind of like strengthening. But I feel like actually there's probably a lot of power in the other side as well. Like, like the other side of the coin being the kind of the more active, dynamic,
I think it really depends on where we are in life.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, for most of people in our today's society, yin yoga is actually their practice.
Sure.
Because we are all in the masculine, we are all in the achievement, we are all in the performance, all in the plans and to-do lists. And in yin yoga, you just have to choose 4 poses or 8 poses, so maximum 10 that you're just gonna do throughout all your practice of 2 hours or whatever. and really surrendering to this passiveness. Well, it's so easy for us if we're like, okay, I have to do this, and then I do my vinyasa. So I don't stop also. Maybe if I have time, I do 3 minutes of Shavasana at the end.
Totally.
Right.
Totally.
So this is not actually practicing something that takes you out to expand and to change, but it's more of the same. And then maybe it's good for people who actually have difficulties to get themselves together and to like start doing, but they are more or less like in a too much lazy or not enough concentration. Then these active practices can come handy to bring the fire in.
Sure. Yeah.
That's how I see it right now. So it also depends on the day. And for
Definitely,
women, also on the day of the cycle, of course, when we're ovulating, we want to do Ashtanga and Vinyasa and everything. And then and then in the other times, we just give ourselves space. So I think it's important to like really have this toolbox. And this is what they should teach us at school, no? What we should give to our children. And
I think also like
how to regulate.
How to regulate. Totally. And that's what I'm learning with the babe, with our little babe, is like she can't regulate for like, I think it's like till she's 4 or till she's like 7, one of the two, I can't remember. Like she doesn't have a nervous system that knows how to regulate. So she is dependent upon her caregivers to be able to hold that space and to give her a center to come back to when there's overwhelm, you know? So, I think... that's it's a big part of like what I feel like we're trying to undo is like finding our kind of like center amidst a lot of overwhelm, you know, that maybe we also experienced. Probably majority of us experienced as kids.
Yeah, I think so. It's amazing, and I really appreciate having this conversation with you today. And I feel like we've touched on so many topics and really got to experience your life as well. And I'm wondering if there's anything else you want to share about maybe some of the projects you're working on, or any final message for maybe anybody out there who's at that point in the life where you used to be, before you saw the owl sign, or they're waiting for their owl.
You know, I would say, just follow your heart, and really, you know, if it feels, you know, I think one has to take risks in life somewhat. You know, every decision you make, you're saying no to something, you know, and you're saying yes to something else, you know. So with all those decisions, there's going to be like that part dies, you know, and then, you know, life goes on this way. And I feel like with that, there's always going to be risk. And it's like trying to tune into what feels most aligned for you in heart consciousness and awareness. And and then just trying to listen to what comes.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Definitely. It's beautiful to hear this and to have like seen all the journey and the backstory. And, you know, many times we just say, like, I cannot count the times that I tell to people just to follow their heart, and they look at me with this like, you know, like even a bit of pity, like, you know.
Well, first we've got to connect to the heart.
Yeah.
Right? You know what I mean?
It starts with the body.
Yeah. And we've got so much covering it. We've got so much held in our systems. So it's like, we've got to clear that out.
Yeah, because many times when you say connect with your heart, people connect with the pain body directly, not with the intuition center, right?
And sometimes that pain body is shrouding everything as well. You know, it's all that can, you know, sometimes it's painful, so we don't want to be in it as well.
Yeah. All right.
Okay. Yes. So thank you for joining us, and had a great time with this conversation, and we will for sure love to connect more about the men's festival. I'm interested in joining, and yes.
Yeah, I wish all of the men from my circle joined.
Yeah. Let's start it.
Yeah, beautiful.
Okay.
Big inspiration. Thank you, Jack.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you for bringing me onto this beautiful creation that you are doing here as well, guys. So appreciate it.